I did a podcast with somebody else's, and I had my water like right here because I normally do because like access, it makes it
Of
easier to
course.
drink.
Stay hydrated.
And they were like, bro, you need to like take that down. And I like forgot that it was like I'm on someone else's show, so they kind of get to set the stage. But here when I'm in charge of it, I'm just like, I'll get you can put whatever you want on the table. But yeah, I
I'm kind of
digest.
confused. Was it because like a branding thing or like
Yeah,
a
they didn't want it in the shot. They didn't want like the water bottle in the shot. And I'm like, I get it, dude. I get it. But yeah, it was just all right, you guys. Welcome. Sorry, I had to go on a quick rant. Blaise here at the Blue Chip Athletic Club podcast. See, when you run it, you can just kind of do whatever you want. That's the nice part about it.
yeah.
Uh, I'm here today with Carly. I'm super stoked to chat with Carly. It's been far too long. And I'll let her kind of talk through intros, what she does and what's going on with that. But before we do that, I want to mention we started our Project Poolside Challenge today. Super stoked for 8-week transformation within our app. I may keep it open until Friday. I'm like flirting with the idea for anybody. So last minute, today's the 20th of April. I'll probably end up keeping it open until Friday for anybody who wants to join in late, but then I'm going to close it down because I don't want anybody starting too late. So Project Poolside, let us know. We'll get you in looking different by June. And then thank you to our sponsors, First Form, Sweet Perfections, Protein Cookies, Log 10, Pilot Base. We really appreciate you guys. Oh, dude, Carly, I should send you some protein cookies, bro. They slap, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Hannah does it right, dude. We'll get you. We'll get you on. I'll send you a post podcast questionnaire thing,
Yeah.
and we'll get you some swag, some stuff sent over.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
not opposed.
Sweet, dude. Yeah. Okay. Without further ado, Carly, I know you at least to a degree because we've done a handful of things together when it comes to workouts, retreats, and stuff. But tell the
Yeah.
people who you are, who you help, background story. You can go as far back as you want, as like an origin or let it rip. And we'll just tee it off from there.
Yeah, so my name is Carly. What's up, everybody? Um, I guess just first things about me. I am born and raised from Scottsdale, Arizona. So West Coast girly. Woo.
Is it
But I
considered
grew up
West? I guess you on Pacific time. You are on Pacific time. I guess it counts.
you used to live in California though,
I
didn't you?
don't, dude. I live in Florida now. I'm a East Coast rat right now.
Oh
We
yeah, I was
moved.
gonna say, but you're getting some sun, so you're not
Yeah,
cold.
dude. I've been working outside. I'm feeling tan right now. Feeling tan.
Yeah, you look it in a good way.
Yeah, yeah.
um yeah, I also did used to live in Florida too for a minute, and I think I was when I met you. I was living in Florida, but I'm back in Arizona now.
Yeah, yeah, right
Anyway,
on.
yeah. Yeah. Anyways, but I grew up an athlete, just like soccer was kind of like my thing, but I did dabble in pretty much like almost any sport that you could think of, and that's kind of what started my passion and my origin story, I guess, with movement and fueling my body properly, but then also kind of like bled into my insecurities with like body image and things like that. And, comparison to others, as a lot of young women experience when they're growing up, in today's society. But,
Dude, men do
but I,
too. They hide their feelings in their muscles. Come on, that happens.
yeah, yes, that
It's a
was me.
thing. It's a thing.
um, But yeah, when it came to like, graduate high school and like going to college, I decided to go out of state to the University of Arkansas. I always knew it was just time for me to like leave home and just kind of start my own adventure.
Razorbacks.
Yeah.
Or no.
Yes, move
Yeah,
pig.
I go for Razorbacks, dude. Nice.
And also I was kind of one of those people where I'm like, what the fuck do I study in college? I have nothing's pulling me in a direction for where I think my life should go. But again, coming back to like that passion for movement and nutrition, I like discovered they had a kinesiology degree, which is the study of movement. And so I decided to pursue that. I'm like, you mean I can actually just pay to study exercise science? Like, that's crazy,
Pretty dope.
and then like minored in nutrition too. So I did that. And then still, even after college, I was kind of like, what the fuck do I do with my life? So I took off and backpacked Europe for 5 months and essentially spent all my money doing that. And then I came home and was like, let's work at a gym just to make some money back. And then that's kind of what started my whole maybe personal training is something that I want to do. And I think I want to try the online route because I just crave that flexibility with my schedule and like, just being able to help anyone and everyone in the entire world, instead of just like within your little small community. So I just kind of had like a bigger vision for that for myself. And that's kind of how we got here today. Joining like business mentorships, and that's how we met through PTBI. You know, um, what does it stand for? Personal Trainers Business Incubator, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we met. That was like my first ever business retreat that I did, where we met there, and it's just been such a fun journey, kind of like getting to know myself better and also like who I want to help serve, since starting all of this like 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. And um yeah, entrepreneurship is not for the weak, but it's a fun ride, as I'm sure
Dude,
you
for
could
sure.
probably.
It is definitely tough. So tell me like, and I've got an answer for like who and where I've kind of landed, but tell me about you like figuring out like who you want to work with. Cause I feel like that's kind of one of the hardest things of like, oh, personal training. It's like, dude, like Sally down the road is a personal trainer and Sally does like booty spin. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's like not my bag, like nothing against it. Like it for sure, people can have it, mental health boosts and those types of things. But like, where did Carly land and who is that demographic too? I think that's important to kind of answer. Who are you like, oh yeah, like if you're struggling with X, Y, and Z, like this is who I can help. And then I'll tell you a little bit about how I figured mine out too.
Yeah, yeah. For me specifically, it's like former athletes is who I know I can best serve and like who I resonate with the most as well. Just because like with my background that I kind of explained previously, I was never someone that was ever super sedentary or inactive, and I've never experienced being severely overweight or obese. So it's hard for me to really connect with those kinds of people. Like obviously, like with the knowledge that we have, we can help a variety of people achieve, various fitness goals or health oriented goals that they may have. But I think when it comes to like choosing a coach and even just like, being very selective and like the holding standards with the clients that we choose to work with, it just the relationship, from start to finish just always goes like way better and so much smoother when you guys are just super aligned and can have those bits and pieces where you can resonate with each other and just it's more like personable and like more relatable, I feel. And it just makes the coaching experience more intimate and just a sense of security and safety within that too.
For sure.
So I typically gravitate towards girls who or women who, are like former athletes or they're still athletes. And I'm a huge proponent of like still keeping that athlete mentality. Like, I don't think we should ever drop that because that's something that so many people struggle with, like transitioning from whether it be like a high school sport into college and you're not playing anymore, or like even you played in college, like legit, or even like intramurals and stuff here and there. And then transitioning out of college, you're like, okay, I'm not an athlete anymore. Like, what do I do? Like, what does training in the gym look like for my new goals? Like, I don't even know. Like, I think I want to put on muscle, I guess. Like, do I just do these bicep curls and bench and squat like everybody else? Like, like there's just so much confusion about like how do you actually train outside of sport performance. So that's kind of like my niche too, is like getting girls who kind of have that like sport performance mindset, or they don't really know how to transition from sport to kind of more physique oriented goals that they may have now.
Dude, it's so funny. Like you hit on a ton of things. One, like even the sports oriented thing, right? Like let's just slow down and say there's levels to that game too. Where like, oh, Jerry down the street who would coach high school wrestling, like maybe Jerry was like an Olympian or like whatever. But then you also have like Joe who does it like two streets over at a different school. And Joe is just like a dad who's like wrestled once and watched a video, and like that's the guy they get hired. So like you gotta remember, like there's levels to this game. If you're a Division 1 athlete or professional versus like playing rec ball and what you're doing in the gym too is huge. Like you probably know a handful of people who have like even studied like at a really high level that are not even up to par with their ability to coach. And then some people that didn't, and like almost a degree, like it's very helpful and the knowledge helps for sure. But then the ability to apply it. So I think one thing that you're kind of hitting on is like sports performance. There's levels to the game and understanding that. So like maybe your foundational level of sports performance, like lifting, isn't even helping you get to be a better athlete, let alone be where you want to be when you're done with athletics, right? So that's, I feel like, one thing that I wanted to hit on.
Yeah,
The
for
second
sure.
thing is like you're essentially explaining what I think you're kind of explaining is like your character arc, which is what I've kind of like landed on is like I want to work with people that were like either that are me in some realm of my character arc. So
Mm,
maybe you're like playing sports now and maybe like you're super into it and you're like, oh, I'm a lacrosse player, I'm a all around sports athlete, blah blah blah, whatever. And then you could also be like the mid tier person who like, oh, I was super into powerlifting, I like did that for a bit, but then I got really heavy and I was struggling to run, and that I almost got like booted out of naval flight training because I was too heavy. I was too heavy to fly the plane. I don't know if I told you the story, but I've
yeah,
told it
you
a
have.
handful of times. Like essentially like the training aircraft that I was in is rated for 231 pounds. And I went to the flight doctor and I was 230. And you've seen me, dude. I'm 6 feet. I'm like not like super big, dude. But I definitely did not carry the 230 well, you know? And I was like, oh, dude, it's time for a change, man. Like, I can't be doing this. So I, from that point, then started to like figure out my life a little bit and make little small health changes. And then now I'm like, oh, I want to work with somebody who's like somewhere had that challenge, whether you want to be better at sports, you want to potentially lose some weight or like work and get really, really strong. I've done that. And then the mobility stuff now and the longevity stuff and the like looking better naked is now kind of where it landed of like, I want to blend all the things together to be like
Yeah.
an apex predator at all of it. Like I want to be able to go run a high rocks tomorrow and then be able to like go and like lift heavy weights and then like play lacrosse and play pickleball and never worry about like blowing my knee out. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
where I want to live.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like you're kind of explaining the same thing. It's like you're trying to work with you, you know?
Yeah. I feel like, honestly, I feel like that's kind of like the trend where the fitness industry or people who are getting into fitness, like it's kind of just they want the all encompassing or like the total package, like the apex predator thing that you were describing. Like, yes, we want to look good, but also we want to feel good, move well, be able to do all these different like variety of like modalities when it comes to exercise. And like the longevity aspect too. I feel like more people are kind of like becoming conscious or, like aware of how their habits now are playing into that as well.
For sure. And you know what else I think is really funny is like people when you're younger, you like don't really care about that, you know, because you're like built like a rubber band. Like you just like anything happens, you're like, oh, I'm like good to go, you know, you just like bounce right back. But as you get
Yeah.
older, like you become like a rubber band that's been thrown in a freezer, and then you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to snap and come back the way that I did. And it's funny, like I talk about it all the time. I was like, I never want to be the guy who pulls a muscle running to first base in like kickball or softball. Like if I'm
Yeah.
playing like career league sports, like that is like epitome of like who I don't want to be. And I think it's super easy to kind of get in the trap of like, you know, even if you're going to the gym and you're lifting weights and feel healthy and look healthy, if you haven't sprinted before and or you haven't sprinted in like 10, 15, 20 years and then you go out and sprint, like you're putting yourself at risk. And I think being able to blend all modalities together and be that is definitely the way that we kind of do things. But
Yeah.
yeah, so tell me a little bit too, like your specific challenges. You kind of alluded to them before earlier of like one, like playing sports, that I'm sure there's challenges related in that whenever you were playing. Two, I'd say like we talked about like hiding our feelings and our muscles a little bit and or like working through that. And I think like you and I both do the same thing. Like we both work with coaches ourselves. So tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you saw and whether you were working alone or with somebody in that department. And then like what's happened now to where like now what you're doing, the path that you're on, how you feel, how you're moving. Are you getting closer to your goals and those types of things too?
Yeah. So I guess starting at like the beginning of my fitness journey, I would call it, was when I made that transition from high school to college. And, I wasn't playing sports competitively anymore. I still played soccer, like club soccer at Arkansas, but again, that was more just for like fun and wasn't taken as seriously. But so I kind of like threw myself into the gym by myself and was like applying kind of like what I was learning in classes, or just like I guess what I came across, on social media at that time too. And I did have exposure to like supplemental strength and conditioning, like, weight training stuff, like with like being in high school with the competitive soccer. So it wasn't like I didn't know how to back squat at all or like deadlift or
Right.
kind of things like that, but it was still very surface level. So didn't really know really what I was doing, but enough. Anyways, but my biggest struggle then was like, I didn't know how to train for like the new goals that I had, like I didn't really care about, being like all the shit that would translate over to like my soccer performance.
Yeah.
I at that time, I was 18 years old and I'm like, okay, like I kind of want to grow my glutes now. Like I kind of want to improve my body
You're like,
composition.
I don't
Like,
be the best soccer player anymore, but I do want that fat ass. So let's
yeah,
talk about it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I get it.
yeah. Like I want to like have all the frat boys notice me at the party. Like,
For sure. Yeah, for sure. That's a
Oh
thing.
yeah, that's so funny. Like thinking about that time in my life.
It's
Anyways.
important. That shit's important. It is. You know what, dude? Let's call a duck, right? Like 98% of the people, male or female, probably both, they enter the gym because they want to look better naked. That's a real thing. Like men want to
Yeah.
pick up more chicks, women want to be noticed more, and I mean, for the most part, you're competing against your own gender to a degree, right? Like you want to like make sure that you're doing that. But obviously, like natural selection is real. People want that. And a lot of times it's a healthy reason for people want to do it. Now, does it keep you in there? Probably not, right? Because eventually like people are like, oh, they don't have the energy or they decide they don't have the time and they kind of let their thing go. And then you need something more tangible like longevity and wanting to move for family or future generations or whatever. I feel like those things kind of become more important.
Right.
But yeah, dude, getting started, come on. Don't feel bad about that,
Yeah.
dude. Don't feel bad.
No, 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 no. I'm a huge proponent of that. Yeah, I think training for aesthetics, like there's nothing wrong with that, 1,000%. But it's just like, just like the reason, I don't know. Like, I think there is a problem with you wanting it to be, because I was a little boy crazy at that time in my life. So I
Nothing
think there's
that
just kind
either,
of
dude.
like the difference between wanting it for others' attention and like external validation, and then wanting it for you to feel more embodied and like confident in your own skin. Like it's kind of like what's the intention behind striving for aesthetics.
Yeah, yeah. It's different. It's different for sure.
But anyways, so that was kind of like my biggest thing, like because I kind of like what I was alluding to before. There's a huge difference between training for aesthetics and training just for exercising or sport performance. Like
Yeah.
I had no structure. I had like no. I didn't know what progressive overload was at that time. Like I didn't know how to progress. Like I again super early with my nutrition knowledge at that time, so I didn't really know. I was like protein, macronutrients, all the little ins and outs of that, which also play a huge role. So it's just like, of course, you wonder why you're not seeing the results you want, because you're not doing anything that's actually going to be the needle mover to get you there.
Bro, can we talk about how frustrating that is for a hot second before we continue? Like, dude, when I was 230, I trained for like 2 hours a day, dude.
Yeah.
I was training for like 2 hours a day. Dude, I hit my like strongest time. I could like deadlift over 5 plates. I could squat over 4 plates and I could bench over 3 plates. And I still didn't look the way I wanted to.
Mm,
Like, that's nuts to me, dude. I was training
yeah.
2 hours a day. I could do all those things. And I still was like, I would take myself today 100 times out of 100 over that dude. And it's amazing how like the time spent doesn't necessarily equate to the result that you want. So
Yeah. Would you say like for yourself back then it was like yeah, some like training, like structured or like progression things, but then also like a huge pillar being nutrition that you
I
weren't paying
think
attention
I think I
to.
was missing a huge piece of the nutrition, and really
Yeah,
a lot of it from understanding. And I think my recovery was complete trash too.
yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
like here's how it went in flight training, right? And I'll tell you, although I probably shouldn't. You would like go and like fly like an event with an instructor, and then like I would like do a workout, and then we would like go and crush beers like downtown, and then like go to bed at 1 and then wake up at like 5 or 6 and then like go and do it again.
Yeah, it was
Like
like a
that's
different.
like a thing that happened. It wasn't like all the time, but it was definitely more frequently than I needed. And
Mhm.
like to be honest, like I just ate like everything. I was like, oh dude, I'm working out so much, like I can have almost anything I want. And I wasn't tracking anything. I wasn't working with anybody. The only thing I cared about was like, hey, am I gaining strength? Am I putting more weight on a bar?
Yeah,
And for me, that was a big challenge too, for dudes especially. And I don't know, maybe some females that are getting the same thing. It's like the ego lifting thing is super real, like super real. And
yeah.
ironically enough, the only person that truly cares about what's on that barbell is you. Like
Mhm.
nobody else cares. I could tell you like I Actually, I can't tell you. I can't tell you a single person that I've seen in a gym. I'm like, holy shit, that guy lifted so much weight, and I'm like still thinking about it today, from any of that time, But in there, you're like, oh yeah, I got to do all this, and it's like you finally hit the goals. And for me, it was a 3, 4, 5 plate goal that I was talking about before. You finally get there, and then you're like,
Yeah,
why? Like, why did I need to do this? If I need to pick up something that's 515 pounds, like I'm going to probably ask for help before I do that again personally. But other people may be different goals. And the other thing I thought about too more recently is like, do I want to look like a strongman? Like that's what those guys train for in a power lifter? Like, I don't want to
yeah,
try to look like that, dude. I don't that's not the guy. Like I want to look a like He-Man, like fucking Aquaman or like Superman, like those types of dudes. And those guys are like functional athletes that can run. They're apex predator style. So
yeah. But I feel like that mindset is valid because honestly, even the other day, I was talking with someone that I had just met, about training in the gym, and people still ask those questions about like, oh, so like, how much do you squat, or like, what's your deadlift? Like, what do you bench? You bench like over 135, right? Like, you have to, or just like, things like that, and it's like. I actually don't do any of those lifts in my program currently. It's just kind of like like some people like that's kind of like all their fitness vocabulary or understanding
yeah.
is stemmed from is like what can you lift or how much, like plates on the bar, like relative to your body weight, kind of things like that. And I'm like, that's just that's so like that's a whole other niche of fitness that I'm actually not a part of, and most people don't know that, but you know.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting. But yeah, so sorry, I meant to continue with your things that you essentially have created your character arc. So I
Mhm.
guess like challenges that you had, and then your coaching experience now, because not only do you coach others, but you also get coached, or at least from what I understand, you do too as well. So
Mhm.
I want to talk about that, like because I do as well. And I want to hear like your takes on some of those challenges that you had, ways that you either overcame and or like reached out for support, and then how that's kind of gone throughout that journey for you too.
Yeah. I do have to be honest, like, I was so resistant, like, my ego was like, "We don't need a coach," for the longest time. Um, and I wish like, it's kind of like within this past year, I'm like, I really wish I did that sooner, like, I invested in my own coach sooner. Anyways, but in like 2024, I did start working with my first coach. So about 2 years ago. And the goal was to kind of like start my journey toward competing in bodybuilding. Cause that's kind of been on my heart for a while to step on stage at some point. Like
So
I have no
funny.
idea if I really want to take it that seriously and go for my pro card or something like that. Like I don't think it's necessarily that drive. It's more so like I think I would regret it if I didn't, if I died and I didn't like fulfill that dream or that opportunity, like take a chance for that. And So that was the goal back in 2024. And of course, like some challenges arise as they always do when you kind of like get some clarity and make a decision towards something. So I think it was literally like 2 months in, I injured my knee, and it's still something that I'm recovering with. Like today, like I have patellar tendonitis in my knee. It was kind of from overtraining. Like I, even this week with my coach that I'm with right now, I have the problem of training too hard, not to go like off track, but like trying to pull
Dude,
my intensity back
dude,
even like
listen, you're
right
in good
now.
company, dog. There's yeah, there's tough. I'm sure there's people that will listen to this that'll be like, bro, that's what I do. I go too hard. I don't know how to rest.
Yeah.
How have you been working on it, dude? This is where we get to get into the beats.
Yeah, well, essentially right now I am kind of reteaching myself like how like what like how to train away from failure. Because my like in my head, like my 3 reps in reserve or 3 RIR is like other people's 1. Like that's just kind of how hard I push myself.
Yeah.
And I'm currently in a health phase right now, kind of like re getting back into my bodybuilding journey. I was supposed to step on stage last fall, but that didn't happen because of some health issues. So I've kind of had to like, take some time off and recalibrate my body and things. And now I'm working with a new coach. Um, and things still aren't like moving the needle forward that we want to with what we're doing. So, and we're kind of like narrowing it down that like, okay, we're overly stressed right now. Just like there's so many things combating and my body just like really get a handle on everything. So just trying to be more intentional with like lightening up the load and the intensity when it comes to training right now. So literally like today before when I was at the gym, I'm like, okay, we're like taking it easy. What does that look like for us? Like yes, it's great that I know what my limits are and like pushing my threshold, but also what does it look like, to train in a more mild fashion?
Dude, this is so important, and I feel like
Yeah.
you may not even see it. So I want to make sure that I point it out. You are like former athletes are you, bro. Like you're talking about stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, bro. Like my coach was like, bullshit. No, there's brand, and like you're
Mhm.
doing that, and you're going to the point where like you're ready to throw up, or like you're like dropping a weight on you, and it's like dangerous. Uh,
Yeah.
and and I feel like that's kind of what's like been trained into you and I mean, it's been trained into me for sure.
Yeah.
And knowing like when to take it easy is, or take it easier it's always been a challenge. And, and it's interesting that you're saying like, hey, your coach is saying that too, because I'll tell you like the allostatic load of your stress. I mean,
Mhm.
holy shit. Can you like think about all the things that like the things that you can and can't control, like outside of your control for like things happening in the world, like maybe you're somebody who gets super stressed out about politics. I'm not necessarily with that person, but some people are.
Yeah.
So maybe like you're also feeling like, oh, I'm like coaching people. I got to get this done. I've got to go see this friend. I got to travel for this event. I've got to do X, Y, and Z. And you still want to like make time to like have fun and enjoy stuff. And it's like, then you're either like having fun or you're like stressed out and it's like flipping around this thing and it's so
Mhm.
hard to kind of figure out where the fine line is because as you know, I mean you study this and work with people too, like some stress is good, dude. Like there's a level of stress that's like that you need to grow and you need to develop and being a little bit uncomfortable is really good. But I
Yeah.
feel personally, like in my own health and then when I'm working with former athletes as well, is that sometimes we go like way off into like, oh yeah, this has to hurt. Like it has to hurt and or I'm not like doing enough. Or I'm,
Yeah.
I'd have to push myself X, Y, or Z. Like if I did 135 10 times today, I have to do it 12 times tomorrow. And it's like one of those things that
Yeah.
I feel like we just continue to do one of these things until the body's like, here's a kick in the balls. And for you, it sounds like patellar tendonitis is something that happened. So tell me
Yeah.
like how when that happened now, you're like, okay, I'm trying to reframe this and understand how this now has to shift because like everybody struggles with small nagging injuries, I think, throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
How have you and your coach now started to attack that and pivot so that you can still feel one, the mental win of continuing to train and move towards your goal, and two, like still move in that direction? Like how's that then?
Yeah, well, I would say a lot of the rehab and like the improvements I saw with my patellar tendonitis was because it was kind of like one of those things you have no choice but to listen to your body and actually rest because you physically cannot train. Like it's just that painful where you're like you can't even walk actually because it's just so painful. So for like about a year and a half, I pretty much didn't really train with a lot of knee flexion at all, and kind of just focus on like isometric work, or honestly just kind of really dancing around what I could pain wise. Like I'm kind of in the boat of like when you have injuries or like uncomfy like nagging pains, you shouldn't like stop training necessarily altogether for a long period of time. That might be necessary in like some contexts for sure for a period, but it's kind of more just like working around the pain and like doing what you can, with it,
Why do you feel
because
that way?
movement
I'm
is
curious.
medicine. But
Yeah, I was like, why do you feel that way? I'm curious because I've got a couple of reasons why, but I'm interested to hear what you think.
I just like the core belief underneath it is just that movement is medicine, and like I just the benefits that movement has, physiologically, like delivering blood flow to the nutrients when you are increasing movement around like inflamed or like nagging pain joint area, and like it's just so beneficial, like I don't think like too much rest, yes, is important, but like the dose and the duration makes the poison, so it's like too much of that you're just gonna kind of like let your body heal in like a icky state,
I love it,
you know
dude. I totally agree with you. I think that like it needs to get pushed more and more, like the rest, ice, compression, elevation thing until you like feel better. I feel like that is like dead. Like it's
Yeah.
been proven that it's not good for you. The movement is medicine thing is like finding your capability to continue like get blood flow to those areas and fight inflammation and help you like repair tissue is like so important. Not to get
Yeah.
super scientific, but like you talk physiological effects, like for the at the end of the day, if you're somebody who trains like 4 or 5 times a week and then you're gonna tell me like I can't do anything, you wanna talk about like the biggest mental, like, what
Yeah.
the hell am I supposed to do now? And like getting so overwhelmed with like I can't do anything. And then like before you know it, you're like putting on 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds or whatever your thing is, or you're not feeling like as good when you're showing up for your family or your job or whatever you're doing because you're not getting your mental win of getting out there and moving, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
for former athletes, like that's a huge piece of the pie, right?
Yeah. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. um but yeah, so with the with the knee, like things have definitely improved. Like I did other modalities of recovery, like dry, like what is it called, cupping, dry needling, and things like that, and those are really beneficial for me too. But yeah, honestly, the biggest, like the knee wasn't even the biggest hindrance for why, like kind of like the with my bodybuilding journey not ending up as we thought it would, and kind of like the hiccups we're coming into right now, or like the obstacles we're coming into contact with, is it's more so just like my health, because I'm still this is like a whole other side of my journey, like coming off hormonal birth control 4 years ago. It's just like sent my body just did not know how to come
Dude,
back from
how
that.
about that? I'm incredibly interested, and maybe this is not like what you expected to talk about today, but I want to
I
hear
will.
that, dude, because I'll tell you what, like it is. I know a ton of women that have had similar journeys where like they stop and then like shit just goes haywire, dude, because you've been giving yourself this thing for 10, 15 years or 20 years,
Yeah.
some people longer, and then they're coming off and then it's like what is happening? So tell me specifically kind of what's happened with you.
Yeah, for me, like my journey, so I actually made a piece of content about this today, but like just kind of encouraging women who are thinking about coming off birth control, like please seek guidance, like someone to help walk you through the coming off process, because and also like not just to do it cold turkey, because that will truly just influence how the rest of your journey plays out. And because when you don't seek out help or have guidance to go about it the right way and do it cold turkey, then that's when a lot of the negative things are like almost bound to happen. And for me, it was like losing, like I didn't uh receive like or like find my normal rhythms back with my menstrual cycle for like 3 years. Honestly, I'm still kind of battling that right now, because you're suppressing the or like that natural communication between like your chemical messengers, which are your hormones that like cascade between or of communication between your brain and like your sex organs, like your ovaries. Like that's just so suppressed. And so like you're basically not ovulating. And then so for me, I like lost my period, which is like amenorrhea. It just is like the medical term for that. So I didn't have a period for like 2 years. Essentially, I had to like medically induce one, just like, because that's bad, because you can get the buildup of your uterine wall. Your the lining of your uterine wall can build up, and when it's used to being shed every month, and yet that can cause like infection and like
For sure.
other diseases. So I had to have one like medically induced. And then I was also experiencing like severe acne, like cystic acne on my face. Like, and I was never had acne growing up, and like hair loss and thinning, shedding, like just all of these like androgenic like symptoms, where it's kind of like similar to, it would resemble having high testosterone, but it's not quite that. Honestly, this year I kind of uh, self-diagnosed myself as someone with PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome. I don't know if you know much about that, but essentially, like the original phenotype of that is where like you have these fibroids or like abnormal cysts sitting on your ovaries, and you can discover that or like be diagnosed with PCOS through a pelvic ultrasound. But really the underlying issue is not having like these excessive abnormal cysts. It's more so like an insulin sensitivity issue and some like genetic factors that are coming into play as to why your body is like not having like these irregular menstrual cycles, no ovulation, hair loss, thinning, acne, like, and it's not always necessarily like a high testosterone issue too. So, but so you can have like a couple of the symptoms and still qualify as someone with PCOS if you don't have the excessive cysts on your ovaries. But also, you can have the excessive cysts and still be like diagnosed with PCOS. So, I'm someone that doesn't have excessive cysts, but I have all of the other symptoms that fall into that. So, I kind of like had to self-diagnose myself. But there's a doctor who's an expert in this, and I'm gonna butcher her name because yeah, it's a complicated
Yeah.
one, but
Well, it's funny though, like you talked about a ton of things in that, which thank you for sharing that too, by the way. I feel like it's like
yeah, of
have the
course.
same thing pop on and talk to a dude about, having all that stuff. But I hope that we have a good enough relationship that it's
Yeah,
all
no, of
okay.
course.
Yeah, no, I love it. But I think that other women, one, have that happen too. And
Yeah.
two, I think like you want to talk about, we circle back to like stress, right? Like sometimes people have their chronic level of stress even drives them into some of these things as well. Like I'm aware of plenty of women, former athletes that have gone into like such a high stress and chronic stress state that they've actually erased their period completely as well
Yeah.
from like training, from like dedicating your life to that. Some people in the bodybuilding space have actually done it as well, from like
Mhm.
not eating for like, you know, that last like phase of prep, and
For the
essentially
body
kicks off all that
composition.
hormonal like shift. And then your body's like, what am I doing? So what's it
Mhm.
gonna do? Like, think about it if you're the body perspective, right? Like when you're in that high stress state, when all these other things happen, like the body's gonna shut down and shed the things that it deems like not essential. And like that is
Mhm.
something that unfortunately the body's like, yeah, dude, like at the end of the day, like this is not quite as important as keeping your heart beating. So it's gonna like
Yeah.
do that and essentially load shed, if you're familiar with like the electrical term, when like generators would do that. Like your body's doing the same thing. And um it's crazy because like now I feel like it seems like you're kind of coming out of that too. So tell me how it's been like coming out on the other side, and how important it's been to kind of go through what you did go through, and then I mean, it probably was horrible, but I'm sure it helps you have some empathy for other women that are going through something similar, right? And like be able to help.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of one of those things where you would never go back and want to experience what you went through again, but also you're so grateful that you did because now you've just learned so much about not only like the process you went through, but about yourself. And like I think that was truly such a healing thing for me because I mentioned earlier that I struggled a lot with like self-worth, body image issues, insecurities, just always feeling like I, had to be perfect. And I was like such a people pleaser growing up too. And I wanted to be liked, wanted like attention, external validation. And when your face is just so inflamed and so like painful, like I think like when I met you, I was in the thick of it, like actually in that Vegas retreat. And it's crazy, and like not only like physically how you feel when you look at yourself, but also just like the mental load of like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to go out and see people today. Like I feel so, you feel like a foreigner in your own body kind of
Yeah.
it thing. And it's just the wildest thing to experience, especially like I feel like that's one thing to be going through, like whether it be middle school or high school with that experience, like men experience that I feel like a lot too when they're going through puberty, but to be like a young adult, like women, when you're not like society kind of tells you you're like this isn't normal, or like you like why would I be having acne at like 23 years old, like that's crazy, and then like to not even be in tune with like your femininity because you're not ovulating and you're not essentially fertile. Like who cares if it doesn't even matter if you're trying to have kids at the moment. It's like you just feel so disconnected from yourself because like your menstrual cycle is like a woman's divine vital sign, that literally is like the key into your soul, like to know like how well your body is doing. um
Still alive, baby, still kicking, especially,
yeah,
yeah, young women. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
so yeah, so kind of rounding out that whole spiel there. I'm definitely grateful I went through it because I think I healed a whole part of myself because I learned to see my self-worth even looking my worst. Like I found like a whole new love and relationship for myself during that time in my life. And like obviously I don't think I could have gone to that point if I didn't reach lows like that, like being like really shifting my mindset to like noticing how beautiful I was despite like how my external looked, like the external does not matter. So, so
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. In my opinion, I feel like it's like awesome to have that um hindsight being 2020, being able to sit back and be like, yeah, dude, like this, the hardest thing that I had went through, or one of these big challenges that I went through. And now you're like, oh yeah, like I came out on the other side of that. I figured something out. I learned something. I progressed. And now you could sit
yeah,
there and be like, hey, you know, Carly as a coach has been through X, Y, or Z thing. And now Sally is like 22 and she's like having all this weird shit happen. And she's like, I don't know what is going on with me. And you're like, yeah, dude, like this might be something that you could look into. And oh, by the way, it happened to me. And this is like what I did to get better. And just having like that path forward, I think is really, really helpful for somebody because at the end of the day, like I'm sure you felt super alone at times doing that too, right? Like it's not like everybody's got a doctor homie on speed dial who's also like an expert in that. Like we're talking like really niche. We're talking like also not every doctor knows everything about every topic. So that probably is tough too, like finding somebody that can really specialize and help and then figuring out what you can do. And oh, by the way, like every time you look in the mirror, every time you go out somewhere, it's like hitting you in the face. It's like, holy shit, dude, I can't escape this. So yeah,
yeah,
finding a way to like one, do something about it, and two, like, find the silver lining, I feel like super powerful too. So kudos for
yeah.
you for that, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
long journey. Yeah.
So what's the thought now of like, I know you alluded before of like, hey, you canceled the perspective bodybuilding show like last year. So what's the thought? Like, are you still looking to compete now at this point, like at some point and get on stage to check the box? Because it sounds like you kind of do, but maybe it's
Yeah.
not set in stone yet.
Yeah. Yeah, so the coach I'm working with now, his name is John Rojas. You probably know
Dude,
him.
he's been on.
Yeah. He's what?
He's been on. I had him on the podcast. I
Yeah.
don't even know when it was. I'll have to look it up, but he's on one of the episodes. I'll send it to you at least so you can listen to him talk.
Oh, slay. I love. But also that's where we when we met was when I think he was speaking at the event
He
that we went.
was. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm working with him, and right now it's definitely more like health phase lifestyle focus is like the journey we're on, just to kind of make sure like my body's primed, because if you go into a bodybuilding like hardcore extreme experience and your body's not where it needs to be, you're definitely not going to be like competitive for yourself, but also like against others who are on stage, when this is a very like subjective sport. So
Sure.
um so yeah, and that's kind of like always been like my like standard and like values when it came to approaching this sport. Like I want to do it in the healthiest way possible, and like I'm really not, and like I want to have coaches and people in my corner who also value the same things. Like I'm not just trying to like get the next coach off the street who, yeah, he might be good at this, but also if he's going to run my body into the ground and just make it, like I end up 1,000 times worse than where I started off, then like I don't want it. But
Yeah, you
obviously,
start reversing, you can start having like the chronic acne or the inflammation or
yeah,
the
like the
goofy
no.
starts going away and you're like, bro, what is it worth at that point? Like because
Yeah,
the show is for a day. Like
yeah,
you'll be on stage a day. You'll get some sweet pics. It'll be
yeah,
a day. Yeah.
literally,
The rest
yeah,
of it is for the rest of your life. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, that's never really been the appealing part to me, even though like I know like my body will be challenged like health wise when
Right.
I would do get to those extreme that extreme end phase, like peaking before you step on stage and stuff. But like I'm really trying to lean into like trusting my body that it'll be able to support me through that journey, and like allow me to have like a good experience both during like the stage day, or like however long the season is for competing, but then also after, like coming out of it in a good way too. So, because yeah, if anybody listening doesn't know, bodybuilding is not a healthy sport. You might look insane, but it's not healthy.
Well, the way that I think about it, and here's something that I share with you too. I've always thought about doing it just because I love doing hard shit.
Yes.
I have a sick obsession with doing things that are hard. My thing is that I don't love the way that a bodybuilder has to train for as long as they have to do it. And that is like, oh man, I'd have to do that for like so long. And I would want to go full bore and like really, really compete and like and work with somebody like John or work with somebody like that. And it's like, man, I would have a really hard time doing that for so, so long. But anyway, to get off that, I think
Yep.
the wanting to do something hard, challenging yourself, but realizing that that is almost like people training for, a movie or whatever. Like you're going to go through this arc of thing, and maybe you push yourself, and then on stage day you look like this. But the hard part, from my understanding in the bodybuilding world, is like then people are like, oh, I should look like this like all the time, and then
Yeah.
working yourself back into like what normal is, which is probably carrying a little bit more healthy pounds around with you. And like
Mhm.
your relationship with food becomes incredibly challenged because, I've got a coach, a business coach, another one. I don't know why I got so many people in my corner too, coaches, but it feels
It's
good
best.
even to do that. And he was a competitive bodybuilder, was on he covered Men's Health at some point, and like he was
Mhm.
standing there like on stage, and he tells this story all the time. And he's like, he's looking over, and he's standing next to a buddy, and somebody on the other side of the room is like eating an apple, and his buddy taps him on the shoulder. He's like, "Could you imagine putting that much sugar in your body?" eating an apple. And then he always tells a story. He's like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with us, man? Like,
Yeah.
that is what we're like worried about. We're worried about eating an apple,
An
bro. Like,
apple.
it's insanity. It's insanity. So all that to say, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not gonna fully like write it off and say I wouldn't do it or say that I'm like gonna sign up tomorrow. When the time comes, maybe I'll do it when I like turn 40 and want a midlife crisis or something like that, you know.
I actually resonate a lot with what you said though about like thinking about training in that certain style for like a prolonged period of time, you know, in order to like actually get to where you want to be, because that's kind of what's necessary. And that's something I kind of learned with my first like go around or like, you know, like not like coming out of prep, because I was in a pretty long prep last year, like it was like 30 weeks
Wow.
essentially. And normally it's like I would say for women a healthy prep is like 20 to 24. But we were doing like a slow and steady. Anyways, don't need to get into that. But I learned from that whole trip, it's like my body literally hurts from just training glutes and shoulders all the time. And it was kind of like I was burnt out from all of that. And like, while yes, it's still in my heart to train on stage, I'm kind of like approaching it differently this time, where like even with like a mobility emphasis in the last go around of it all, I'm like, I still need to kind of like take some things upon myself to like make sure I can like go and sprint if I want to, or like like more like really intentional mobility, not just like warming up for my training day. And like that's been a struggle to kind of find the time for that, but like obviously it's like again one of those things, like we get to create time for the things that we value and prioritize. So it's like, where, you know, if this matters to me, how can I make it happen? But I don't know, like I feel like you, if you really wanted to do it, you would be doing the same, because I know you still value like just the athletic ability and just like explosiveness, power, and just like feeling good in your body. And like
Uh,
I
I
yeah.
think I've landed on this, and it's really funny. I've got like two, I'll say like lifelong goals.
Hmm.
One is I want to dance at my 80th birthday. Like that's 100% like, dude, I don't want to like be in a wheelchair. I don't want anybody to like wipe my ass. Like that is
Yeah,
like totally a thing that I want. And
you're gonna
two
do
is I
it.
never want to get picked last in sports, like literally ever. Like if people are like looking at a lineup of people at the schoolyard pick, you know, like put you back
Mhm.
to like elementary school. I don't want to be the guy that's like, yeah, we don't want him on our team, like until the
Yeah.
very end. So how do I do those two things? And it's like some amount of longevity training, some amount of strength and athleticism, all those things kind of bundled up into, and you know, how to do it. And yeah, myself, I'll go through like small stints too, where I like, you know, I've worked with a handful of coaches in my day too. And I feel like I'll go through like a mobility thing working with like Brett, and then I'll do like something else over in this realm. I like to learn and understand like modalities, but I kind of always kind of fall back and resonate to some amount of functional health, fitness, athletic training, and kind of making
Mhm.
sure that I do that. And at the end of the day, like my community of aviators and pilots who I want to try and help are basically overpaid bus drivers that don't know how to eat, sleep, or train when they're on the road. And like, hey, like this is something that you can do for forever, because it would suck to, you know, have millions of dollars and then need a wheelchair to get around when you're in your 60s or 70s, you know.
Yeah, that's a really, I love that niche for you. Like obviously it's perfect because they those kind of like how I was saying before, like I feel like you guys just understand each other because that is you and like your character arc that you were explaining as well. But yeah, and I feel like not enough people realize that, or like, you know, that like that's a needed, like that's a very much needed role that you're filling, you know, and the way
Yeah.
you're serving people.
It's yeah, everybody. I don't know. I truly think that I've landed on everybody that I talk to who's a coach as well. Kind of you just
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, who do you want to work with? And then they start talking and they're like, oh yeah, it's like, oh wait, you want to work with yourself, because it's true. Like everybody kind of does, because you know how to help somebody who's going through those same challenges that you had. And maybe the solution is different, right? And that's one thing that I value about you. I feel like I've not said this to you before directly. um, you know a lot of shit about health, dude. Like you are incredibly educated. Like you have done the work to understand, and then you are able to take things and apply it and break it down. I think it's one thing to be really smart. It's another thing to be able to like communicate effectively so somebody else can understand. And then it's a third thing entirely to be able to adult learn for somebody else. I'm finding in my own practice, and maybe you're finding this as well, is you can't tell an adult much of anything, like because they know everything, just almost like teenagers know everything.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's like it's about asking like strategic questions and landing on something and kind of understanding like what somebody knows to then maybe like fill in the gap and be like, hey, are you interested in doing this or trying this or um and understanding a little bit more about this because at the end of the day, like that is what the change happens when you kind of figure it out on your own that way and not necessarily when somebody tells you what to do. Like if
Mhm.
I were to sit here and just tell you just do what I do, like that doesn't work for anybody, dude. Nobody wants to wake up at 4 a.m. and get in the plunge. Promise. I don't even want to do it half the time, dude. But
Yeah.
it's funny. So again, to pump your tire a little bit, I don't know if anybody has recently, very educated, very smart, able to talk to people and break things down very simply. Something that I've always appreciated about hearing you talk, whether it was on social media when we trained together when we were in Vegas, any of those things, because it's like it's one thing to do it yourself, and it's another thing to be able to break things down like that for somebody else because it's hard, dude. Like there's a lot of people that uh, would not be able to. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that
For sure,
because
dude.
that's something I'm actually really insecure about, to be honest.
Dude, it's hard, man. It's hard, and it's hard to people don't talk about it enough. Like in our space, especially, like it's hard to put yourself out there and be like, oh yeah, this is something because inevitably, whether somebody disagrees, there's a keyboard warrior in X, Y, or Z place, or in a month or two, like somebody else is like, oh, did you read this PubMed thing about like totally the opposite of what you said? And you're like, well, I mean, I guess. But then if you look at this PubMed thing, it's like exactly what I said. So like it's an age of like all this information and understanding, but the fundamental things still work, lifting weights, moving your body, eating something that's, grown from the earth or a tree or an animal for the most part is gonna make you look the way you want. And the rest of it, if you can kind of minimize and kind of get with and so you can kind of work it out, You
Yeah,
know what I did want to
exactly.
ask you actually before I let you go, and then I'll let you go. The
I can
bodybuilding
chat for
space,
hours.
I know, dude, I know. The bodybuilding space, I'm so curious. You're interested in doing a show. The space is incredibly saturated with a world of athlete, right? From natural to like, Arnold Classic style of person, I'll say, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty naive to the bodybuilding space as well. So forgive me if I guess say anything that's incorrect here. But I'm curious, like with your competitive style, how you're trying to do it because I'll say it, I've seen people who never admit to taking performance enhancement
Mhm.
or peptides or XYZ type of thing.
Mhm.
How are you approaching that? And then how are you like, you know, because I assume like you would take that and then be like, oh yeah, I want to like put clients through a similar thing to me. Like you're still kind of training wellness to a degree, but you still want to be able to do these other things and also look this way. So how are you going to take like your journey or plan journey like moving forward and then apply that to your coaching style moving forward too?
Yeah. So definitely with bodybuilding being like an extreme sport, right? Even with like completing naturally without any kind of performance enhancing drugs or steroids, like in the mix in the picture, you still are kind of trying to pull all the levers that you can in order to get an edge,
Sure.
because like there's just so many different ways you can manipulate like variables like carbohydrates, sodium or electrolytes,
Water
water.
intake.
Yeah, like or just even those simple things, but then also like what other things to improve recovery, like or like caffeine to improve performance, like those are all considered like performance enhancing drugs to a
Totally.
certain extent,
Yeah.
but that's obviously not what most people think of. But and then like I would say like the next step up from that would be like peptides. And so like for my previous prep go around, I was doing it naturally, so like I wasn't gonna engage in any kind of steroids per se. I wanted to compete in a natural show where you would be drug tested. But I did, with some kind of stalls in progress we were saying, we did do a cycle of ipamorelin, which is peptide that kind of targets like your growth hormone signaling, and can the evidence kind of plays into, or like what they've seen so far is like improvements in body composition or kind of like decreases in subcutaneous fat. So, anyways, but that didn't really do much for me. So, I think on my heart still is to try to do it naturally, but also again, bodybuilding being an extreme sport, there's almost that mindset where your body would probably be better off with how extreme it is to support it essentially with steroids or exogenous hormones to kind of just like prime your body, or just like to keep things in a healthy state, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because everything is just so depleted, especially when you get into the nitty gritty stages of prep and peak week, that it's like your body's just kind of so shot with everything. So it's like almost like, yes, your physique would look better if you were, consuming or injecting something exogenous like a steroid, but also it's probably healthier when you get down into those really extreme like body composition percentages and things like that. So there's like both sides to the coin, and John did actually ask me like how would I feel about, taking performance enhancing drugs, and I'm honestly like open to learning more about it because I feel like there is this kind of negative umbrella over that whole topic, and it's just kind of like a negative connotation that people associate with drugs. Like I'm a huge proponent of like the dose makes the poison, or the dose and the duration makes the poison. Like I say that phrase so many times because it's so relevant. And I think it's with steroids, it's kind of becoming more like people are waking up to the fact that there's actually like a healthy way to go about it if you're doing it the right dosages, and like, you're cycling on and off properly to where you can get the benefits of them without kind of getting the negative side effects or putting your health at risk, you know. Because I feel like a lot of the tragedies that we've seen from bodybuilders who have passed, or have some health issues correlated to steroid use, it's more so like, unfortunately, they were kind of like the guinea pigs with all of that, I feel.
Ronnie Coleman saying, lightweight.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like they're like we just know more now, which is, like I'm very grateful to be able to say that and like kind of be in this position to be like, if I did want to do that, like I would feel more comfortable in that decision. But again, like with a lot of the fear mongering around it, I initially, when I started this journey, my goal was to do it completely natural and not engage in any kind of external substances. So, but I'm kind of more open to it now because I don't know if it is on my heart to like actually be competitive on stage, because I'm not just going to step on stage and just
make an ass out of yourself.
Yeah, like I want to do well, like I want to look good and feel good and what I'm bringing, and just know that I did everything I could to like put myself in a position to like win, essentially, because that
Sure.
would obviously that's fun.
Yeah,
And like, why am I doing this anyways?
You don't play to lose. Come on now.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm open to the conversation now, but again, like, who knows? I could still, I think I could do well without it. But again, I think that, yeah, that's another, we'll get to that point when we get there.
Good. I'm interested to hear more about it as it gets closer. Well, that's, I don't want to hold you too much longer. I know we could probably chat for another couple hours here. But I wanted to leave you an opportunity to drop any of your social media handles, any of your ways to contact you. If you're, a woman who is a former athlete who's looking to, fill that niche of like, hey, I'm trying to train to be, aesthetically more pleasing, but also have all these other things kind of going. Like, how do people get in contact with you? And then I'll caveat with, don't be weird and hit Carly up and be a weirdo and ask her for pictures of her feet or something like that. So
maybe I would be willing. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Please.
It's economy, dude.
I have some nice feet.
I know. Watch out.
No, but yeah, I would say the best place to hit me up is on Instagram. My handle is at carlyg.fit. And also TikTok. I'm kind of on there a lot as well. And it's pretty much the same handle, but I think there's 2 dots. So carlyg.fit is
Cool.
that one.
I'll have you send them to me, and I'll drop them in there with links so that people can find you. Make
Yeah,
it
but
a little
that's
easier.
yeah, that's where you can find me. And I have like an application linked on my Instagram bio if you're interested in applying to work with me for coaching, or if you just want to DM me to chat. I'm open to that too. I just love forming connections with everybody. So yeah, that's pretty
Awesome,
much
dude. Yeah, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
of
Uh,
course.
yeah, it's been super fun. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, I would love that so much. No, it's been too long since we've been able to connect and catch up. So,
For sure, dude. Well, I'm happy to hear that things are going better, and it has been awesome. So until next time, you guys, you don't stop playing as you get old. You get old because you stop playing. We'll see you.